4 years ago, I built Trailgater Kitchen 1.0. There have been a few changes. This is an upgrade. Let me show you how I built it. When I built Trailgater 1.0, the backing board dimensions were 3.5 inches smaller than necessary. Here are the correct dimensions, 13.5 inches by 24 inches. Whether you go with wood, melamine, plastic, your Trailgater Kitchen backing board thickness shouldn't be more than 1/8 of an inch. Get yourself a rivet gun and some 3/16 rivets. The last time, I used what were called short rivets, which I think means they're only 1/8 of an inch long. Those short rivets made it a challenge to get through the entire thickness created by the backing board, and then the Velcro strap, and then finally a retaining washer. This time I got larger rivets. These are longer, 3/16 widths by 5/8 of an inch long, which should be plenty of length. I'll stick a link in the description to these rivets, along with everything else on this list. Make sure you have a drill with a 3/16 bit. Last time I used number 10 washers. This time I bought 3/16 by 1/2 inch washers. I know they should be the same, but I'm going to use twice as many washers this time, so I got plenty of extras. Get yourself some 1-inch wide elastic. Here's the stuff I got. Same stuff I used last time. Make sure you have scissors, a lighter, and some blue painter's tape on hand to help with the elastic and riveting process later. Now it's time to cut your backing board. Once you've cut your backing board, you'll want to mark and drill the holes to attach it to the Trailgater. Starting from the left side of your 24-inch board, the top holes start 4.5 inches from the left edge. The bottom holes start from 4 3/4 inches from the left edge. The holes are a little irregular. The space between the first two is 6 3/8. The second one is the same, as well, 6 2/8. And then the last one is 4 inches exactly. On the bottom, we've got a difference between 5 7/8 for the first hole and 5 6/8 for the second hole. For the top holes, we're about 7/8 from the top, and from the bottom holes, we are only about 4/8 from the top. Now it's time to drill your mounting holes. And now your board is ready for the big decision. What are you going to have for your Trailgater Kitchen? Last time I made some jokes about the crazy things you could put in your Trailgater. But the truth is, the last 4 years have validated that most of the things I put in Trailgater 1.0 were good. So I'm going to recreate pretty much identically most of the items on the right-hand side of the Trailgater this time. I know what they are. I know the way I mounted them worked really well. So I'm going to recreate that. And then I'll make a decision about what to put on the left side once I get there. So the first step, lay out all your items. Place washers where you want the Velcro retaining straps to be mounted on the backing board to hold them in place. This step went fast for me because I was recreating the layout I already had. But just give yourself enough room for those washers to fit between items, and consider where you could use a single piece of Velcro for multiple items and where you need to cut the Velcro down for individual items. Here, I am outlining the items with a pencil because once you remove those items, it's actually hard to tell from just a bunch of washers on a board what went where. Be careful you don't disturb those washers. And then using a Sharpie, just put a little dot in the middle of each washer so you know where you'll be drilling holes for your rivets. Once you've done that, it's safe to clear the washers away. For good measure, I decided to write the names of the items inside their silhouettes I made with a pencil. I figured this would be helpful for other folks in the campsite when items get removed to know where they go when they go to put them back. Now it's time to drill. Go slow, make clean holes. Rivets appreciate a little bit of clearance. And this time, instead of folding my Velcro in half and cutting a little slit for the rivets, I'm just punching holes with sewing scissors because they have a very sharp point, and it's just faster and easier. I'm using 2 washers this time because my rivets are long enough for it. The 2 washers should clamp the Velcro fabric and pinch it between them. This is all about lengthening the life of your setup by preventing wear and stress on the fabric. Then I take the length that I'm going to need. I'm going to take this all the way to here, and I'm going to give myself maybe 1 inch of slack. Now, at the end of your Velcro here, you always want to use a little flame on it to heat that up and just make sure there's no little strings or anything on the elastic. Just melt it a little bit there with the flame. Nice. This is the part where it's really handy to have a little bit of help. As I've grown older, so has the help. Okay. For those of you who don't have a helper and are wondering what to do if you're doing this on your own, once you get your things on here, if you don't have your helper to help hold that down, just get a little bit of painter's tape and that'll hold the washers in place while you flip this over and work the riveting gun on the other side. to figure out where to put the rivets, or at least the method I use, is to take the item and stick it here and use your finger to kind of show how it's going to hold. I want this to be a little tighter than that. There we go. That seems about right for those scissors to fit in there and stay nice and snug. Since I've got these wonderfully sharp scissors here, I'm just going to poke a hole. There we go. That is where we know the scissors are going to stay. I'm going to do that all the way down, and then we're going to cut off the end and burn that too. So now we've got both of these in place here. We can see how all the things fit. Scissors are pretty good here. Sticking that, this, and our tongs go in there. Hey. So now that I've assembled my new board in the shape of my old board and added all of the items from my old board, including, hey, some new scissors. Those are cool. A little flatter than the old ones. You see there? Yeah, nice. When I made the old board, I had little kids and we were doing a lot of s'mores. So I had some skewers here for marshmallow roasting. Those didn't fit very well, and we hardly ever used them, so I got rid of those. I also noticed that my fear with the fork cutting through the strap was true. By the way, I'm a little worried it might cut on the elastic, but not too worried. I mean, I can always replace it if that's the case. That was not a good idea, so I'm going to assemble some kind of a pocket here around these. I also changed my spatula. So I really liked my folding spatula, but I found this one, which assembles itself and has two different spades, and you can reverse them for scraping pans and stuff. It's just a cooler spatula. Finally, I really wanted to get some steak knives. When you're camping with someone and you want to cut your food up, it's nice to have a good knife. I'm going to get some sheaths for these and put them on here, and that will be it. I'm going to do something interesting by stacking the way these are mounted by putting a strap under here and a strap on top of there. The problem I had with the cutlery last time is it kept slipping down, and so I kind of want something to hold it in place like a pocket. So I bought some of this vinyl here. And my intention was to create my own little sort of pocket and sew it together, but I'm not much of a seamstress. So what I thought I would do is rivet everything together. Rivet it to the vinyl like this first, then fold it over and rivet it together underneath like that. So it'll be mounted to the board here and here, plus it'll be mounted here with a rivet, and then I can slip the forks inside. I might be way overthinking this. There, I punched my hole. Hey. If it was good enough for Levi Strauss, it is good enough for me. That single rivet anchors my vinyl strap to my Velcro strap, which, as you can see inside here, both Velcro and vinyl are anchored with 2 more rivets to the backing board. 2 rivets for the top Velcro strap, 2 more for the bottom. That makes 4 anchor points, and that means this little pouch isn't going anywhere. The problem I had before with the silverware slipping down through their retaining straps won't be an issue. They will stay where they're put, and I can even flip the top down over them to keep them from scratching anything. The final new addition to the left side of the Trailgater are 2 dinner knives. These are Cutco knives, and they come with some very nice secure covers for the blades. The knives themselves are serrated and fantastic for cutting meat and vegetables, but also for spreading butter. I have these in my kitchen at home, and I love them. Best of all, they come with a lifetime no questions asked warranty, so if anything ever happens to them, they will send you a brand new knife, which is pretty sweet. All right, we are all set. Let's take a quick look at Trailgater 1.0. A great beginning, and it served us well these last 4 years, but it's time for an upgrade to Trailgater 2.0, so let's put everything together. First, our wide spatula blade, then we can tuck our slim spatula blade behind it, pop our silverware into this very nice vinyl pouch with a cover. 2 dinner knives, the handle for our modular spatula, then our service tool, which really is just included because sometimes in camp, people need to open bottles of wine. Then we have our large red collapsible bowl, which contains underneath it a medium collapsible bowl and a collapsible cup. Then our medium collapsible bowl, and there's a collapsible cup under this one as well. These collapsible items are all Sea to Summit products. I'll put a link in the description. Our multi-tool, nice to have that handy right there at the tailgate at the top where it can be accessed without even opening the Trailgater table. Our slicing knife, cooking tongs, bread knife, and new low-profile scissors, and then lighter, hermetically sealed salt and pepper shaker. I love this thing, by the way. And one last collapsible cup. And there you have it. Trailgater Kitchen 2.0. Now all we need to do is mount it back on the Jeep. Because we measured everything so carefully, and this isn't our first Trailgater rodeo, the backing board is secured right in place with no hassle whatsoever. Then our kitchen Trailgater items for the first time can be easily slipped into their custom-made mounting positions where they will rest securely without rattling around or moving from where they were placed. And, damas y caballeros, we are done. My name is Sean with Green Irish Jeep. This was the Trailgater 2.0 build. I hope that was useful. If you've got one of these and want to build your own. If you want to help me out, I record music under the name Lightholder. Check out my music and drop me a line if you like it. Maybe I'll see you on the trails and I'll play you a tune. Thanks.